Why am I so excited? Oh, you get to talk about books, that's why you're excited. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm currently filming this at night. It is Saturday, July 30th. Yes, July 30th. I'm drinking dandelion tea. It's actually really good. And I got the sudden urge to film. So I decided to film my July wrap up. And technically I'm not done with my July reading. I still have one book that I want to finish up tomorrow. Possibly even tonight, but probably not. And so I felt like doing this, so we're gonna go ahead and get to it. Usually I go in order of the order I read the books. This time I decided to do it by the number of stars that I gave it. I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I finished 7, DNF'd 1. So very proud. As I was saying before I got interrupted, I am proud of how much I read this month. Because it had kind of felt like I hadn't been reading that much, which I had been reading 6 books a month on average, probably. But it felt like I got a little bit more done this month, and I got my physical TBR down to like between 3 and 5 books, and one is a Sherlock Holmes like volume of the complete stories, and I'm not counting that as on my ongoing TBR because I just started it today and it's just gonna be a long process. So I'm quite happy about this. I didn't read any ebooks this month, so there's that. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Okay, let's talk about my DNF. I'm kind of scared to show this actually, because I wanted to love it and I wanted to finish it. The End of the Spear by Steve Saint. I am not completely giving up on it, but for me right now, I was just not interested in it. Now, there were definitely parts of this book that I loved, and I got over halfway. There were a lot of really good parts, but there was also parts that just really dragged, and it was a lot of him explaining things that I didn't feel like I wanted to know. And I watched the movie The End of the Spear. If you don't know, it's the story of when Nate Saint, Jim Elliot, and the men were killed in Ecuador by the Waodani Indians, and I expected it to be more about that and more around that, and it was, but it wasn't. And so I don't know, I just was not interested in it right now. I dog-eared the spot that I'm at, and maybe one day I'll be more interested in it, because there were really good things in here, and I know that there's probably more good things, but for where I was at right then, I just wasn't interested, and I was reading it and being bored, so that's why I quit it this month. And if you love this book, I'm sorry, and I will probably give it a chance again someday, but not right now. I'm in a field of dandelions. And I'm drinking dandelions. Okay, moving on to 3 stars. I have 2 3-star books. Okay, we're just gonna go off topic a little bit. I think I'm finally learning how to rate books that I read. I was giving most of my books 4 and 5 stars. And like if I liked it, 5 stars. Like But the more I read, and I think this is how it is for every reader, probably, the more I know how to rate my books. And so if I would go back in my Goodreads and re-rate some of the books I've read, I would probably change ratings. And a lot of times I'd be scared to rate a book lower, but I'm just learning by watching other booktubers and just reading, knowing what I enjoy, just kind of how to rate my books. So first 3-star was My Father's World by Michael Phillips and Judith Pila, however you say the name. 3 stars means it was good, like it was okay. There were definitely some parts that were interesting, and I usually love Michael Phillips's, however you say that, I can't talk, however you say that. I usually love his writing, and this was like, it wasn't bad writing, it was just not super interesting to me, at least some of the parts, and it was kind of slow. So it's about Corey Bell Hollister, and it's her journals of her coming west with her siblings and her mother dying on the trail, finding long lost family, and kind of just starting a new life. And there were some interesting parts, but I just didn't love it, and so I gave it 3 stars. And I don't know if I'll probably read the rest of the series eventually, slowly. I don't know if I'll like buy them. I don't know, we'll see when the time comes. My next 3-star was The Call of Zulina by K. Marshall Strom. I had never heard of this book until I went into a used bookstore around here, and I found this in the Christian fiction section. And it is about a girl in Africa. Her father was a slave trader, and her father was white, he was English, her mother was black or African, and they did not like each other, and her mom was basically the boss. She runs away from home and ends up at her father's fortress where he houses slaves, and it was good. I enjoyed some of it, but for some reason I could not like picture the inside of the fortress enough to like, some of it was just confusing. Like there were people, and it was just kind of like, I don't know, it wasn't bad, but I didn't love the entire book. There were parts I loved, but I don't know. So I don't think I'm gonna continue the series. I'll probably get rid of it, but I'm glad I found it and at least gave it a try, because I had never heard of it before. Found it, was like, oh, it looks kind of interesting, I'm gonna give it a try. So yeah, passing this one on. Okay, moving on to 4 stars. I had 1 4-star, and I heard about this one from Chantel Reads All Day, like one of my favorite booktubers. And I was like, oh my goodness, that cover is adorable, and it sounded interesting, so I bought it. And that is The Length of a String by Lisa Brent Wiseman, I don't know. I gave this 4 stars. Actually, I think, oh no, I'm sorry. I gave it 3.5 stars. On Goodreads, I rated it 4 stars, I think, because they don't do half stars. But it was 3.5 stars, which I feel better about that, because I was like, did I rate this 4 stars? I don't know. But it is a middle grade story about a girl who was adopted, and her family never talks about her adoption. She's black, her family, or her parents are white. They are Jewish, and so when she tells people she's Jewish, they look at her like, really, you're black? So she's adopted into a Jewish family, and she wants to learn about her origin, like she wants to know what she is. She doesn't know where her heritage is from, and so she tries to talk to her parents, and it's like a lot of it is her working up the courage to talk to her parents, and then she finds her great-grandmother's old journal about when she came over from Luxembourg. Her grandmother came over to America from Luxembourg because she was Jewish, and she had to leave her family. Her family sent her so that they could be safe, and she had a twin, and it was Imani, the main character, reading her great-grandmother's journals with her best friend. And some of the stuff really cracked me up. And yeah, just kind of figuring out the story and linking it to her own story. And there was some really sweet moments, but it was too modern for me. I don't know if that makes sense. Is contemporary the right word? I don't know. I haven't been reading books that are like set in today's world. So like, I don't know. It was just too teenage for me, and like teenagers nowadays. And like the teenage language, and I didn't like that part. And like, I just didn't completely love it. I think it was good, and I did enjoy it, and it was like a super fast read and some really sweet moments, but didn't love it, you know. Okay, I think I need to talk faster. Next, we're moving on to 5 stars. 4 5 stars. And one of them is a reread. First one, The Big Fisherman by Lloyd C. Douglas. Lloyd C. Douglas wrote The Robe, which is one of my favorite books of all time. And so I was super excited to pick this up. And I still think The Robe is my favorite, but this was really good. It is about the big fisherman, or Peter, and Peter's journey with Jesus. And it's so fascinating to read about fictionalized, or like people in the Bible, and assuming their story, because we don't get all of Peter's story in the Bible, and so you have room for imagination. And I love how this brought it out, and it wasn't just Peter, it was about other of the disciples and a young girl. I just remembered some of the parts. That's what happens when you read a book at the beginning of the month and talk about it at the end. But yes, really recommend. And I just love this copy too. It's like it's probably the book I own that looks the oldest, which it doesn't even look just so old. But yeah, it's a classic that I was able to put on my classics list read this year, so super happy about that. My tea is all. Next, you're not surprised. You're not gonna be surprised. We already know. The Saintly Buccaneer by Gilbert Morris. Yes, this is another book in the House of Winslow series, and it was so good. And there was like fighting, like the war. They were fighting on the ships, and I really liked that. That was really cool. Yes, this book was so good. You know, I'm just remembering and reliving. So in this one, the main character, Paul is a terrible person at the beginning, and he has an accident. He forgets everything. Like, he cannot remember anything. Wakes up on a ship, and what's her name? I don't remember what her name is. Nurses him back to health. And then he is a soldier, and it's just really good. I just love this. Obviously you don't read this without reading the rest of the series, which you could, but don't do that. Okay, and then the book I'm currently reading have like probably around 30 pages left. Kisses from Katie by Katie Davis, who is now Katie Davis Majors. For my season of life right now, this book was so good. It is Katie's story of having a desire for more and going to Uganda on a mission trip, coming back to America and knowing she is supposed to go back to Uganda. And she thinks it's gonna be for a year, but God said no. I'm gonna give you 14 daughters to adopt. So she adopts 13 or 14 girls in Uganda. And it just shows, it has some of her journal entries and just how she dealt with everything and the miracles God performed. And it's just really good. And can you see the tabs? Tabbed it up, and it's just really good. All right. I'm so excited about this one. My favorite book of the month. One of my favorites of the year. Thank you, Chantel, however you pronounce your name. All Manner of Things by Susie Binder. I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name, but that's what we're going with. Wow. This is a story of a girl. Wow, so much information. Annie, her name is Annie, and she lives in Michigan, I believe. And it's during the Vietnam War, and her brother goes off to fight in the war. Her father was in the Korean War, I believe, and when he came home, she was super young at the time, and he was just messed up from the war, and so he left them. He never remarried. Her mom never remarried. And it's a story of her being reunited with her dad, and like there's just so many things, like I don't even know what to say. I laughed, I cried, I felt so many things, and it's just a book that makes you feel like you can basically, you're seeing the story happen, and you feel like you're there. It was like a movie playing out, and it's just so good. And I think even more than the story, just the way the writing made me feel and how the story made me feel. It's just so good. And yeah, definitely, oh, you can hardly see it, but I tabbed this one up too. Some of the quotes in here are just wow, and I actually really love this cover. It just, it gives the feeling of the book, like it's just. And I have another book by the same author coming in a book outlet order. I made my first book outlet order, and it's taking a very long time to get here, but I'm really excited. So those are my books that I read in July. I hope that I gave you a good suggestion. Read some really good ones, some okay ones, but I am really excited. We're going camping next week, and so I wanted to get this filmed before that so I could not be so far behind, and I was in the mood to film, so I hope you have a great reading month in August, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye guys.